give you price guarantee. To learn more, 1-844-CALL-DISH, dish.com, and visit a local retailer near you. Requires credit qualification, 2-year commitment with early termination fee and e-auto pay taxes and surcharges not included. Price guarantee applies to core programming package and certain fees. Other restrictions apply. For full details, 1-844-CALL-DISH. God bless you. Good morning. We'll get ready for impeachment. As we've been saying, we're going to talk about money bail this morning. Folks, join us on our stream as well on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make it plain. Thank you to Jules Hoffenberg for pulling us all together. And we have in studio with us, beginning on my far right from forward.us, Rena Karefa-Johnson. Got it. Sir. Welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you for coming in. The brother of Khalif Browder, brother Akeem Browder, is also here. Thank brother, good to see you, man.
Thank you.
And Miss Lady Justice herself from The Gathering and Justice League, confidant of Harry Belafonte, Carmen Perez, plus and a half. I guess, and Carmen Perez and a half, folks. She is with child. How you? This we're gonna talk about money bill. We're gonna talk about the baby. Because I thought about that. Everybody wants to know how you doing.
I'm good. 7 months.
Wow, almost time.
Almost time. Getting a little nervous, but really excited.
Nervous? Really?
Yeah, you know I could.
This is her first. This is her
my
first.
first. I could fight injustice and I could take care of babies, but you know I think the pushing and the I just heard from Akeem that his baby, they were in the hospital for 3 days, and so I'm like, oh, wait, do we have 3 days? Because we got work to do. We're gonna be taking Zoom calls from the hospital. We got to make sure we got a really strong power line outside.
Moving baby on the way, y'all. Well, congratulations. We look forward to it. Okay, so talk to us about money bail and what you all are doing and what we need to be doing to support what you're doing. Rena, you want to go first?
Yeah,
Please.
so there's kind of a national movement to start addressing the issues with money bail in our criminal justice system, and basically how that's an entry point where we start to see the most egregious class and race biases in our jail populations. In New York specifically, there's been a big push for the last several years, but especially this year, to try to get a bill passed that would reform New York's bail system this session. New York jails a tremendous amount of people. There's 16,000 people awaiting trial in jail in New York every single day. So those are people that have not been convicted of any crime. Those are people that are due their constitutional right to a presumption of innocence, but because they don't have money to afford the bail that a judge set, they're sitting in jail awaiting their trials instead of awaiting their trials at home.
And is that what happened to Khalif?
Khalif suffered an injustice in many different ways.
Yeah, of course, right.
When it comes to wealth-based detention, bail actually did have a strong hand in it, because actually even when you consider the fact that $1,000 bail may not sound like a lot to a wealthy family or a working class family that has both mother and father. In the Bronx, which is the poorest congressional district in America, we have issues with raising $1,000 just for rent. So having an extra $1,000 there, which was actually $3,000, which gives that extra severity of, man, this must be a severe crime or something. But it was a backpack, and so even raising money for something such as small as that indicates that if you don't have the money, then you can't actually do anything to get your freedom, and it's just not a right system to live by.
How long has it been since your brother's death now?
Khalif, this June 6th of this year was his anniversary of his third death. So it's been 3 years, and 3 years without him. My mom passing just in 2016. It's been 2 years, and yet zero has happened in the form of justice in the way that our family actually is seeking it, which doesn't really come in a form or a fashion of a check. That money isn't going to bring back anybody from my family, and the loss that we suffered is a loss that every family that goes through this, you incarcerate someone's son or their child, you incarcerate the family.
How old was Khalif?
Khalif was 16.
Yeah.
When he was arrested, he was 16. doing 3 years, he missed out on not just birthdays, but he missed out. My brother had a son and a daughter, and that was when Khalif came home. He had that extreme recognition of, I'm an uncle, and it was powerful because to him, it's like, man, we never actually see. No one else has had any kids in my family until just recently. I had a son, September 7th of last year, and so Khalif didn't even get to see this, and neither did my mom.
Carmen Perez also here with us. Carmen, for some listening, things are so baked in and so systematic and a part of life. Some people can't even comprehend. No money bill. What does that mean? What do you do? Is there a formula? Can you help people understand, why it's so necessary that we do away with this system, and what, if anything, we would replace it with? Because some people listening, well, we still have to keep people there. There needs to be something going on. Explain what would be in its place, if anything.
Well, I think we have to recognize the fact that there are about 88% of Latino and Black folks that are incarcerated in Rikers right now, right? And most of them can't afford more than $5,000 bail. So just think about a family that, Akeem described, and I will say very similar to maybe all our families that just don't have $5,000 laying around. I think about what happened not only with Khalif Browder, but also Pedro Hernandez. Pedro was a young man that was accused of some heinous crime and had $125,000 bail. I mean, his mom, Jessica, was working hard to make sure that, they could come up with something. But again, people don't have that type of money. And you have folks like Harvey Weinstein who are posting bail for, some of these crimes and are actually getting away. So again, I think we have to do away with cash bail, especially because those that have access to cash bail are those that have the resources. And many of the people who are Black, brown, or poor don't necessarily have access to this. And this is impacting so many communities, so many families across the country, but more so particular here in New York. And the way in which you could do away with some of these is the fact that you could create alternatives to incarceration. There are programs that could allow individuals to still receive I don't think punishment is the correct word, but some type of accountability, right? I think about discovery, folks being able to actually have information regarding their trial. There's none of that happening right now in New York State. We just raised the age of criminal responsibility about, 2 years ago, a year ago, where 16-year-olds were automatically prosecuted as adults, and we're still not doing it right. So there's just so many reforms. Bail reform is one of them, and that's the focus for so many communities and so many organizations here in New York State right now.
You said there's no such thing as discovery.
Oh, well, New York has one of the 4 worst discovery statutes in the state. So that means that folks that are charged with a crime are trying to decide whether or not they should take a plea deal and have a criminal record or go to trial, oftentimes don't get to see the most basic evidence against them, like a police report, until the day of trial. So that's one of the big pillars that people in New York are trying to push now, and this kind of pretrial reform push is to reform our discovery laws so that there's an open file discovery, meaning that you and your lawyer get to see what the prosecutor have against you. Because in the power dynamic, the odds are already stacked against the person accused with the crime. But to not even be able to see the evidence against you means that a lot of people are taking plea deals, ending up with criminal records. And then we have a society that doesn't allow people to re-enter society with a criminal record without having very bad discrimination against them. So it's just a way that we continually kind of shuttle Black and brown and poor people into a caste system where we're creating different ways of discriminating against them, but the outcome is the same, that they're on the bottom and other people are on top.
So the inability to afford bail, coupled with the lack of discovery, and then you go to someone in that desperate situation and say, well, let's just cut a deal.
Just to make it a lot more understandable on a generic basis, we have to end wealth-based detention doesn't just look like ending cash bail. It's a step towards the direction that New York needs to take right now. Because it's actually on the floor. It is close to getting passed. We also just had
on the assembly.
on the assembly side, it did get passed, yeah, and as well as and that was just yesterday actually. That was actually through the Walker bill.
Exactly.
But to make it plain, Khalif could have been.
See what you did there.
You didn't know you did that, did you?
No, I didn't. Khalif could have gotten.
It's supposed to be. Just supposed to flow like that.
Khalif could have gotten bail, right? And most people, when they do get bail, it is a chance to fight your alleged crime outside, where you have better opportunities and you have more access to getting a different attorney, or you can even find evidence or talk to people. But most times, when you do make bail and you didn't have really that kind of money, without making bail, you can't provide for your family and everything. So there's a good way to have to introduce this to the people, that you can be home, still have your responsibilities taken care of, have your job and everything. But if you get going back and forth to court, then what happens is the court then is using that as a way, and then to bring you back and forth to court, like Khalif 38 times going back and forth to court. If he had a job and a family, he would have lost his job. He would have lost his family because he wouldn't have had a job. But that's just ending cash bails. But then what about the amount of times you're going back and forth to court? So you might want a speedy trial, motion put in, but putting in a speedy trial motion only brings you to the trial date quicker. However, you don't have evidence. If you don't have evidence, once you get in front of the judge, after the jury is sworn in, the DA usually 9 times out of 10 slams down a thick packet of evidence that was against you. You only have about 3 hours that the judge at most is going to give you to actually review that evidence. 55 pages of evidence. There's so many witnesses. Your attorney's like, I didn't know they had this. What are we going to do? You might want to just take a plea now. See if we could work a deal.
Folks, quick calls, 866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997-47 for a quarter before the hour here on Sirius X in Progress with Rena Karefa-Johnson of Forward.us, who we will acknowledge. We did, toward the end of last year, we had a Dreamer Day.
Yes.
Courtesy of Forward. You all worked very closely with us on that, so we appreciate that. Akeem Browder also here, Carmen Perez here with the Gathering New York Justice League as well.
And the Khalif Browder Foundation.
And the Khalif Browder Foundation, forgive me, as we remember just last week, the 3 years to the date. June 6th, that's the same day Bobby Kennedy died. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, June 6th. So they have us going and coming. Money bail. You could ask for a speedy trial, but it's negligible if you aren't getting a discovery. So it's just one thing stacked on top of the other. And Carmen, people around the country consider New York to be a liberal state. There's nothing liberal about these policies, especially when you're locking up mostly black and brown people. The other thing too is, I think people are aware of the horrors of Rikers and the calls for it to be closed. But the bail reform and all that go hand in hand, because if you reform bail, you're not keeping as many people at Rikers for a period of time, right?
Yeah, there's what about, given that 75% of the folks in Rikers
in New York City jails.
Yeah, in New York City jails are there because they cannot afford bail. So when you're thinking about closing down Rikers, you also have to incorporate bail reform into the conversation. And, you are so right. I come from California, born and raised. I was out here, brought to New York under Harry Belafonte to run the Gathering for Justice. And right now in California, people are working on second chances, sunsetting felony convictions. There are about 70 million people in the U.S. that currently have felony convictions that follow them for the rest of their life. Very similar to what happened with Meek Mill popping a willie, right? And receiving a felony for that. And that was something that the judge did. So again, when you're thinking about when you're thinking about reform, you have to really think about it through a multi-prong approach, very similar to what both of them were saying, is that, it's bail reform, it's discovery bill, it's closing down Rikers, raising the age right. There's so many things that go into it. It's also the DA races. Right now we're in midterms, right? We have to really go after the DA. I know that Akeem could share with you what the DA did in the case of Khalif, and very similar, it was the same DA who put away Pedro Hernandez. So we have to really think about this, but I want listeners to understand that there is something that you could do about it. There are organizations.
Right.
There's a petition, I Stand with Khalif, where you could go to Akeem, the Khalif Browder Foundation website. There is information on Forward USA. There's information on the Gathering for Justice website. There are people, I want you to understand that we are impacted people. We have family members that have been incarcerated. Some people have been incarcerated themselves. And so we started off where people are sitting right now, where listeners are sitting. I didn't know what to do. Learn how to bail out my brother when I was 14 years old, showing up at 2 a.m. in the back of the jail to pick him up, taking my parents' car. And that's just something that we are resilient people. We understand that we're doing these things for our family members. But again, it has to go a little bit beyond that, and it's going to the voting polls. It's going to make sure that you are passing some of these bills and holding these legislators accountable, because what happens is that people will find the new term and be like, oh, I'm all for bail reform, but they're not doing it correctly. And so we're here to say, citizens of New York City, there's an opportunity for you to do things right. There's a way in which you could get involved beyond having to suffer in silence with your own family by showing up to hold your elected officials accountable, by signing the I Am with Khalif pledge that was amplified by so many leaders across the country and celebrities. There's like New York Council of Churches calling for an overhaul of New York's bail practices.
Yeah, New York has actually a chance to live up to its progressive reputation. So there's been 2 bills, a discovery bill that will fix the discovery problems we're talking about, and a bail reform bill that just passed the New York Assembly. But they have to make it through the Senate and then get signed into law by June 20th if we want to get it done this year. Yeah. So we have a chance to really engage our elected officials.
Are they going to make it through the Senate? Does it look like they're going to make it through the Senate?
It won't unless we are all very focused about holding our lawmakers accountable. So tweeting, going to the I Stand with Khalif pledge, adding your elected officials with, end money bail, hashtag I Stand with Khalif, going to Move Justice Forward, FWD.US, and emailing your lawmakers and telling them to prioritize this issue, because, lawmakers have a lot of priorities, and then everyone likes to say we can wait until next session, but a day in jail harms somebody.
Right.
The harm being done to the New Yorkers can't wait. And before I worked at Forward, I was an attorney, and I worked with young people on Rikers Island doing criminal justice work and civil reentry work. And I saw every single day how time in jail breaks people in a way that it is very hard to fix afterward. So we can't take back the damage we've already done, but we can sure as hell focus on making sure that we minimize the amount of people we're doing this to.
I want people to have pen and paper ready. We're going to give out specific instructions about where to go, what websites, what to tweet in a moment or two. Let me get a couple of quick calls in. Let's see. Mike's in Ohio. Mike, God bless you. Good morning. We'll get ready for impeachment. Let's see. Can you all hear Mike? Is he up? They may not need. The headphones probably turned up loud enough, but
I hear it.
Can you hear?
You guys hear me?
Yeah, can you hear?
I hear.
Yeah, I could hear from him.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can
go
you
ahead,
guys
Mike.
hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Yes, go right ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. I just want to say thanks for taking my call. I love your show, and I'm so glad you guys are talking about this. This is such an important issue. What about the idea of caps on bail and on fines? Because I have a lot of family that have gone through the justice system. It was in more rural Southwest Virginia, more poor white. But I found that once they got out and couldn't pay their fines, which were just outrageous, they ended up back in trouble again. And you were so right about the day in jail. I mean, it just straight up wrecks people. But is it more sellable to the masses if it was just a minimal cap based on crime or income? Maybe there are income limits now, but I'm talking a very small fine, very small bail fee. Is that something like a stepping stone?
Akeem has a response.
If we're talking about assessing a monetary amount, what we're really saying is that your money and that monetary amount equates to the severity of the crime, as though if you can pay that monetary fine, then your severity is no longer a factor, and you're not a threat. However, we just saw that on Khalif's birthday on May 25th, Harvey Weinstein on that day put up the $1 million bail so that he can get out and not spend any time in jail, as though his severity, and he's got severe charges. And yet now with that 1 million, he's free and he's allowed to walk the streets as though he's not severe. He doesn't
he's
have
the
severity.
poster boy of the Me Too Times Up movement. He's walking around, and we got sisters and brothers ain't done nothing,
right,
and still locked up. That's the disparity.
You also have to remember that these people are innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. Your innocence is stayed until they can prove your guilt that you're guilty.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah.
I think as far as selling it to the masses, though, it's really important that people understand that the data shows that the vast majority of people who await their trial at home do not impact public safety. So this is not actually making people safer.
Right.
It's just creating more harm, making people lose jobs, breaking up communities. So I think that's the message that we want people to take away. This is not helping public safety, and actually jailing people before trial increases their chances that they recidivate or commit more crimes, rather than decreasing those chances.
You all going to kill me because we're about to leave the radio. Folks, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We're going to extend discussion a little bit longer. Dina in Kansas, hang on. But we're also going to let you know how you can get in touch with these individuals, get involved in this movement. So tune us in on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make it plain. Dina's in Kansas. Dina, God bless you. Good morning. Get ready for impeachment. Go right ahead.
Good morning. I'm just calling. I work in court. I'm a stenographer. So I'm not any expert at all. I just see what I see. The question I had is, we use bail as a way to make sure these people show back up, because we have people biff off and disappear all the time, and then we got to put out bench warrants.
Yeah.
What is the replacement to make sure that these people show back up?
So in New York, that's a great question. In New York, there's organizations that are called charitable bail funds that basically post bail for people so that people don't have to put up their own money. They've been collecting data on the people that they post bail for, and they have extraordinarily high rates of return, even though people don't have that quote unquote skin in the game. What the data shows is actually supporting people in returning to court has a much stronger correlation to whether or not they come to court than having them pay money. So what I mean by that is seeing if people need transportation to court, sending them email reminders, text reminders, call reminders of their court date. In New York City, at least, that is shown to reap higher rates of return than asking people to pay money to a bail bondsman or to bail and then hoping that means that they'll come back. But I think that's a great question. And we need to invest in people's success in their court dates rather than trying to penalize them for being poor.
And the rate of them returning. Oh,
go ahead. No.
The rate of them returning actually has nothing to do with the monetary funding, because realistically, when the courts are supposed to collect that money from the bail bondsman who holds that money, we'll find in New York City it's less than 1% that they actually collect on that money. So what are we really saying? Are we actually giving this money for the court to cover any expenses and fees? They're supposed to go after it, but they don't. So who's making out on this is really just the bail bondsmen, the insurance companies behind this, and that's actually the more threatening thing, that they can actually make a wealthy living off someone suffering.
Dina, thank you for your call. One more. Sam's in Houston. Sam, God bless you. Good morning. Get ready for impeachment. Go right ahead, quickly, please.
Yeah, I mean, so real quick, my point is that the point of the rehabilitation is one goal, but punitive punishment is the other. And to me, high bail is a punishment. I mean,
you're innocent. Why would you be
vast
punished?
Majority of people.
You're innocent. Why would you be punished?
Well, because I think most people are guilty.
Well, that's your opinion. The
Because
court
the
has
vast
to
majority
decide
of
that.
these
Yeah, so Sam, I think
vast majority are guilty.
I think
No,
no. So we're talking about bail reform. We're talking about even before you get adjudicated. So we are saying that people have the right. I'm sorry? No. These people have been there. These are allegations that are put on people. So they have not been tried. What we are saying, prior to you being tried, you have the ability to have information regarding your. Sam, let me just kind of finish.
Let her finish. Sam, calm down.
Yeah. Sam, I really appreciate you calling in, but I think, let's have a conversation, not a monologue.
Sure.
But So one of the things is that we have to understand is that punishment is not the way in which the criminal justice system at this moment wants to go. We're talking about restorative justice practices. We're talking about rehabilitation. That is what the mission of the criminal justice system, quote unquote, is supposed to be. However, at this moment, a lot of these individuals are going on the presumption that they have committed a crime. They have not been found guilty. Right. So these are allegations. We are saying, and many of them actually get released because there's nothing that says that they've committed the crime. That's why so many people take a plea, because the system is not set up to help poor people. What we are saying is that bail reform needs to be something that is paid attention to in this time, because so many, as it's been said here, many of the people are there for nonviolent crimes or have not committed a crime and have these large amounts of bail that they need to pay in order for them to be out. They should also know what is being put up against them so that they could fight this case. But in the case of Khalif Browder, and I'm sure you could talk more about it, Khalif Browder allegedly stole a backpack and did 3 years at Rikers. He is not a criminal, right? And so we have to reevaluate the way in which we look at society and what punishment is. And it's not supposed to be punishment that we're giving these individuals that have not been accused of anything.
Also, Sam, really quickly, I just want to explain, because I think maybe people don't understand this. If you return to court, no matter what happens, whether you're convicted or not, you get that bail money back. So it's not like I don't agree with you about punishment, but even if that's what you want to do, it's not like you're actually punishing people. You're basically punished for what they did. You're punishing them for being poor. Because if I have $3,000 or $5,000 or like Harvey Weinstein, $1 million, I can do pretty much anything I want and await my trial at home. But if I don't have $500, there's people being held in upstate New York on misdemeanor charges on $500 bail, then I'm sitting in jail. So that's kind of why it's no matter what your beliefs are about the purpose of the criminal justice system, it's just not fair.
Right. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Sam. Enjoy your day. All right, 866-99-SERIOUS. So let's do this. Let's run through where people can find out more information and how they can get involved.
Want to go first?
And Andrew, just do a tweet stream on this under our video so we can give all the information if you can. Type it out.
Okay, so the legislative session ends in June 20th. That means counting today, there's 5 days left of the session.
Lord have mercy.
We have some time, but not a lot of time. So a few things you can do. Go to the Khalif Browder Foundation's website and sign the pledge to end wealth-based detention.
What's the web address?
It's www.khalifbrowderfoundation.com.
And Khalif is spelled Kalief. You can go to movejusticefwd.us. movejusticeforward.us. There you can sign up to email all of your elected officials in New York and ask them to prioritize pretrial reform this session. You can also look up your local New York State Senator or New York Assembly person and tweet at them, asking them to prioritize these issues. If you do that, please use the hashtags I stand with Khalif, or End Money Bail, or Free New York, or Bail Reform New York. Whichever one floats your boat. There's a lot of hashtags, but we got to get focused because we only have 5 legislative days left, and we can't push this till next session.
All right.
And I will also add that if you're on social media, follow at NY Justice League. We do a lot of tweeting. We post tweets that you could retweet. So again, at NY Justice League.
And your civic duty is necessary for New York and for any state that you're actually listening in on, because when you have elected officials, we have to hold them accountable for their actions. If we can't hold them accountable, then there's no reason to complain. Right. We have the methods and availability. We can do the work and make it easier for you to just either press a button and sign your agreement towards what we're doing. But we want you to read. We want you to be involved. We want you to be civically engaged.
Folks, also tweet and share and retweet this video with this esteemed panel addressing this issue. We hope you'll visit the sites, get involved. Carmen described going to the jail to bail out one of her loved ones. All of us have been through that. Mm-hmm. And it affects even those who aren't in jail. It shatters a whole family, and it's a memory you never forget. But as Dr. King said, You know, there are those who help the Samaritan along the road. And we've all had to do it. We've had to help the Samaritan, one of our loved ones, who is in jail. We're the Samaritan going to help them get out of jail. But Dr. King said he wanted to be the person that would go further up the road to change the policy so the person that's harmed won't be harmed anymore. And that's what these good people are doing. That's what this movement is doing. And that's what you can do as well. We can keep on running down to jail, trying to help get folk out, or we can advocate for policies that prevent this type of system from enduring in the first place. So I hope that you will please ma'am, please sir, get involved in this and do all you can. Honored to have in studio with us Rena Karefa-Johnson. Good to see you, Brother Akeem Browder. Good to see you, brother.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for all you do. And with child. You know, she works with probably our eldest living civil rights activist right now, and now she's about to give birth to our youngest civil rights activist. Isn't that something?
Yes. So Mr. B calls the baby Little Harry.
Really?
Yeah, and he's like, you know, he can't wait to see his grandchild. So
You gonna name him after him?
I'm naming him after his father and my father, but certainly going to call him Little Harry when Mr. B's around.
We look forward to many, many great. Thank you all very, very much for
Thank
coming
you.
out.
Thank you.
All right, folks, spread the word now. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.